This, my friends, is a 10-year-old laptop. It has 4 gigs of RAM on it. It has next to no storage and I love it. I use it every single day. It really doesn't have any files on it either. It has just my configurations to get a desktop up and running and Emacs. And all memes aside, I know it's a Thinkpad. I'll stop you right there. I believe in a tenet of deep focus. And to achieve that focus, you have to put all things that you're not working on in the moment to the side and put all of your effort into that one thing. So, this laptop right here, I use strictly for writing. I use it to write the blog posts that you read on my blog. I use it to write the scripts to the videos that you watch on this channel, even the one that you're watching right now. Believe it or not, there's a massive community surrounding typewriters. Typewriters, you're saying, like from the 1900s? I don't even know when they first came out, probably even earlier than that. Yeah, and the reason is, again, simple. There's no distractions. It's 100% focus. Some of the most prolific authors still use pen and paper. And I don't want to get into the nuances of writing a novel 100 times to get it right when you don't have a computer to just change a couple words or whatever. I see the benefit in having this deep focus. It's a purpose-built device for doing one thing, doing it well, and then moving on to the next thing. We live in a world of constant distraction. You could be doing absolutely anything else in the world right now, and that's the problem. In fact, I think it's the biggest challenge that we all face in achieving what we have set out to achieve in this lifetime. So this video is about multitasking, but the absolute opposite of multitasking. As it becomes more and more of a buzzword, I want you to multitask. If you want focus, you need to contextually immerse yourself in whatever it is that you're doing and do just simply that. And in this video, I'm gonna talk about the system that I've personally developed for myself that allows me this focus. And I call it the purpose-built method. As GPS devices, notebooks, timers, alarms, and even desktops become replaced by this little device in your pocket, I want you to go the opposite direction. So let's talk about why. My first point is that multitasking is a lie. I'm gonna red pill you on multitasking. So many of us pride ourselves on our ability to multitask, but is it really multitasking? I would argue that 95% of us, if not more, just simply switch tasks. We're efficient task switchers. And we get into this flow state. We're working on something and then something takes our attention away and we're on to the next. And we never really get anything of meaning done. I'm my own harshest critic and I realize that I personally am really bad for this. I've realized that I need to compartmentalize everything that I do into the task that I'm working on in the very moment and letting all else just slip away. And this allows me to pick a task, finish that task, and then move on to something else. As opposed to picking something, working on it, getting distracted, coming back to it. Do you see where I'm going here? And I personally believe that if I can do that, on to the next, I'm undefeatable. Everybody is. But most days I was being dragged around by notifications. I'd be working on one thing and then all of a sudden I'd be on something else. I didn't even know how I got there, but here I was. In reading the book Deep Work by NEWPORT, this became blatantly obvious to me. Any world-changing idea or book or program, or piece of art or anything involved a level of focus that I feel we as a world are losing. They were created by someone that was able to multitask, focus 100% of their effort on the task at hand and get it done and push it out into the world. They were able to remove distractions and create one piece of very highly impactful work. And I began to carry this sentiment across all of my technology and use cases. And I no longer believe in multitasking. Another thing to talk about is how temptation is everywhere. So the issue that I had with writing on my general use computer is that there's so many temptations out there. You have internet access and you have pretty much the world at your fingertips. And like I said, you could be doing anything but doing your work. And a lot of us, that's what happens. Our focus is all over the place and we're not really productive. We could be writing something and then all of a sudden we need to do some research for that article, and that research pulls us away from the writing we were doing, and now we're down some rabbit hole that we never intended on being down, but we are nonetheless. 1 minute you're researching the meaning behind a word, and the next minute you're reading some article that word showed up in, and you're researching the geopolitical implications of minutia. I saw it in myself when I wanted to sit down and write, or code, or edit a video. There I was wanting to do work, but all of these distractions around me kept me from doing what I actually really wanted to do. And though I believe that we're able to brute force ourselves into using our willpower to avoid these temptations, inevitably something's going to come up and it's going to pull us away from what we actually were intending to do. I've read articles where the average 8-hour employee works something like less than 2 hours out of that 8 hours. So what would you do with an extra 6, maybe even 7 hours of productive work per day? And I'll touch on discipline and willpower because I do believe in discipline. But I also believe that it's a fleeting resource. It takes effort. It's fleeting. So why not just take away this temptation as a whole? Why don't we just get rid of it so that we don't even have to think about it? What if we were able to add context to what we're doing? And when we are in that context, we're 100% focused on what we intend to do. In the purpose-built method, we use context for whatever device that we're using, and we do the work that that device is intended to do. You don't need your phone to do math homework or to write. You don't need your gaming computer to produce code, and we'll talk about this in a second here. And I don't believe you should be using your phone to read books or surf the web or consume content. It's just not the best device for that. So you take discipline and willpower completely out of the equation with the method that I'm going to be talking about here. So you may be asking, Josh, what is the purpose-built method? The purpose-built method is taking devices and giving them context so that when you use that device, you're simply and strictly doing that thing that you intend to do. It came to me that I need to break up my use cases across my devices so that I know in that moment what I should be doing, and everything else is put on the back burner. This allows me to pick the best suited device for the job, and all other things are left at home or in another room to not distract me whatsoever. And I'm going to show you how you can do this without much cost at all to you. I find it ironic that to achieve digital minimalism, you have to perhaps purchase a couple more devices to create this context and these walls around that context. But these purpose-built devices are better at doing what they're intended to do, if only for the fact that they stop you from doing what you shouldn't be doing in the moment. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, your smartphone. And I believe that a phone should be a phone and not much else. I don't think that it should be a content consumption device, as it's just not suited to that. Unfortunately, the advent of the general use computer and the dropping of that computer into every person's pocket in the Western world makes this a uphill battle, to say the least. It's created a generation of absolute distraction and inability to focus on what we should be doing right now. Social media, videos, podcasts, image boards, forums, constant notifications, and 24/7 connectivity they're all amazing things, but when I want to actually sit down and do something that I am very intentional about, these things become more of a hindrance than a help. You can read Deep Work or Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport for more of this, because I think that that's a massive inspiration for this overall video. It's as such that I began to break up the tasks that I used to use my phone for. It's not to say that I won't take notes or browse the web when I don't have anything else available, but there are better devices for these purposes, and I try to use my phone as little as possible for the general use computing. A simple example is, think how many words per minute you can type on a generic keyboard, and then think about how much you can type on a phone with your two thumbs. And for me, at least, I'm 3 times more productive on a computer keyboard than I am on a phone. So why would I write, or why would I try to create anything on a phone when I have a much better and more effective device sitting right beside me? I also don't have email on my phone. I have one account that people can reach me at, but all of my business email and everything I answer on my laptop or my desktop computer, and that has taken so much stress out of my life, you would not believe it. It's incredible. If there's one thing that you take away from this video, take your email off of your phone and only answer it on your computer. If I have to make a post on social media, I download the application, I make the post, and then I delete the application. You can't really get a hold of me on Instagram, for example, because I'm not on there. I answer messages maybe once a day if I check my inbox, and if not, I just give out my phone number and I give out my XMPP server to people that are a little bit more technical so that you can contact me directly. Don't go through the intermediary of social media. Social media companies have poured billions of dollars into keeping you on your screen scrolling just a little bit longer. So if you have to use these applications, I think that you should use them on the web apps. The phone apps are heavily engineered to keep you on them as long as possible. I also don't really have notifications turned on my phone. The only thing that I allow is phone calls. So if you want to contact me directly, you have to phone me. I answer text messages and signal messages around like once an hour. So if it's an emergency, people that know to call me, call me. I also don't have apps on my phone besides security, utility, privacy apps that I can use in a pinch. Some people go as far as to completely throw the smartphone out the window and move over to what they call feature phones. Well, they're dumb phones. But I personally don't know if I could do that just because I need the maps and a couple applications on my phone. But I'd probably be with those dumb phone crusaders if it was at all possible or viable for me. So all of this is to make my phone a tool again, instead of making it a crutch or something that uses me instead of me using it to better my life. There's a reason that I mentioned the smartphone first, and that's because I believe it's the biggest culprit in distracting us and stopping us from achieving what we want to do on a daily basis. And if you're being at all honest with yourself, you probably see that in yourself as well. So I mentioned I don't read on my smartphone. Let's talk about reading here for a sec. If I want to read a book, I'm not going to do it on a computer or a smartphone. I have a Kobo e-reader, this thing right here, and that's an amazing way to read, or I just use a physical book. I know it's quite novel, pun intended. The reason behind this is I don't want distractions when I'm reading. I want to be focused and in the moment with what I'm doing. And I think it's a sad fact that a lot of people don't read nowadays because their attention spans are so twisted. They're so short that when it comes to reading a book, you read a page and you're like, I'm done with this. A lot of people can't sit with themselves and let their imagination take over. And I was one of those people, I'll be completely honest. I think we've just lost our ability to do this though, because as children, we were all able to do this. I remember reading the Harry Potter books and like immersing myself in the characters and seeing the landscapes and everything in my mind. And I think that we're able to get this back, but the way that we have to do it is to completely shelf distraction. So let's talk about work here for a second. I have a desktop dedicated to work, and I have a laptop if I want to be mobile and go to a coffee shop or whatever. Those are the two devices that I use for strictly working. I don't game on my desktop. I don't scroll Reddit or anything like that. I work. That's it. There's nothing else that that computer is used for. I want to be producing, not consuming whatsoever. I used to have games on my computer, and contextually, I don't think I was able to ever immerse myself completely in the work that I was doing because there was always this temptation hanging over my head of gaming. It's for this very reason that I actually recommend getting a console for gaming. I know I'm gonna get blasted in the comments for this, PC master race and all that, but that's why I think that contextually, if you have a console, it takes you away from the computer that you're using for your day-to-day work and makes you have a dedicated gaming place. I had a deep conversation with a friend about this actually just the other day, and we were talking about gaming on a computer. I never felt like I was really enjoying my time when I was gaming on my computer. It's not relaxed like sitting on a couch is with a controller in your hands and just playing with friends. I know I'm weird maybe, but that's just how I've felt about it. If you have to game on your computer, I do recommend splitting up the boot. So inevitably you're gonna have a Windows side for gaming, and then you're gonna have maybe a Linux side for doing your work. For me, it worked not terribly. I don't know how I would be able to avoid the temptation though if I was only working on the Windows side and all my games were a click away. I just don't know how I would personally do it. Remember that we're trying to take away temptation and not exercise our willpower. And if we separate the boots, it creates this friction that I have to go to one side of my computer to play games or the other side to work. And if I'm there, I'm working. If I'm there, I'm gaming. I think that that could be a potential way to work around this if you're into PC gaming. We'll talk about writing here too, because it's kind of part of the work that I do. I use my 10-year-old computer as a dedicated writing device. The reason is really simple. It has a good keyboard, and it has a contextual affinity for me with writing. When I'm on there, I'm not browsing the web, I'm not doing anything else, I'm writing. That's it. And I'm not saying you have to go buy some old computer to write on. Just for me, it kind of fills that nerdy side of me that likes retro and older technology. Let's also talk about content consumption, because inevitably we all do consume content. We all watch videos, we all read posts. It's human. If I want to consume content, I do it on a tablet actually. It's a cheap Android tablet that I keep locked in a drawer when I'm not using it. I use it for videos, I take it out at lunch if I want to watch some YouTube. And it helps me to get my fix in. So this allows me to focus on the things that I'm actually working on, and then if I want to be consuming content, I'm actually immersed in it. There's no other distractions, it's what I'm doing at the moment. I personally believe that the smartphone that we carry around is just a lousy consumption device. It has a smaller screen than a tablet. The input isn't as good, so that's why I use a tablet. I don't actually have a television, believe it or not, but if I wanted to create a consumption station, I would probably have just television and a home theater system or something along those lines. And when I'm there, I'm immersed in it. I'm actually intentional about what I'm consuming and listening to and watching. I think that we as people, we're so here and then here and then here and then here because of all the distractions. We're not even able to enjoy a movie. How many of you pull out your phone when you're watching a movie to reply to a text message and you kind of lose the storyline of the movie? It's indicative of what our current times are. And if I do get a television, it's gonna be in a different part of my home. It's not gonna be around my office where I'm actually wanting to do work and create and produce. It's gonna be on the other side of the condo or house that I'm living in, and it's gonna be out of sight, out of mind for 85% of the day. I understand that this purpose-built method creates a little bit more device in your life. We'll put it that way. It goes against the minimalism meme. And I've never said that I'm a minimalist. I'm actually probably more along the lines of a maximalist, in that I believe that everything that you own should have purpose and it should do things well. Perhaps it's worth having a few more devices if they help you to create contextual walls around what you're trying to achieve, so that when you're doing things on that device, you're focused right then and there on the thing that you're doing. And even so, these devices all fit into a backpack. So I mean, if you have your old laptop for writing, if you have a tablet, if you have a phone, if you have a Kobo e-reader or something like that, instead of having a phone or a single device, you have 3 or 4, but they all fit into a backpack very easily, and they let you to really focus on what you're doing in the moment. Now let's talk about cost here for a sec too, because I know that that's going to come up in comments. Having multiple devices doesn't necessarily have to be more expensive than having a single device that does everything that you need it to. My laptop was like 120 bucks. My phone was cheaper than if I were to buy a flagship phone. My Kobo was like 120 bucks too. And my tablet, a little bit more expensive, but at the same time, all of these add up to less than a flagship iPhone or something like that. So who's actually minimalistic? I argue that the value that you're going to produce with these individual products that help you to contextually focus is going to be so much greater than if you had the distractions that are taking you away from accomplishing what you actually want to accomplish. With these added hours that I've personally given myself of productivity, I'm happier. I'm able to disconnect from the world and actually think for myself again. I have less stress. And for me, I believe that's completely worth the having a few more devices around in the name of productivity. And I'm enjoying what I actually am doing on a hour by hour basis too. If I'm working, I'm working. If I'm enjoying content, I'm actually enjoying it, as opposed to having distractions all around me that are making me listen with half of my ability to listen. I believe that intention is everything. So if you use a device and intend to use it for the purpose that you're using it, that's going to bring you so much more enjoyment in the long run. Try it out. Get a Kobo. Get a cheap laptop that you can write on or something like that. And let me know how much more your own productivity and focus increases because you're not distracted by having to do everything on a single device. Thank you guys so much for watching. It would mean the world to me if you guys subscribe to me, like this video, and left me a comment. I hope that you like the content of this channel, and I'm going to continue to do videos on technology and my thoughts on the world and everything like that. So thank you guys so much for stopping by, and we're gonna catch you in the next one. Take care.